again, and welcome to the RTK After Show. This is episode 4, and I am your most definitely only favorite co-creator of the show, Perry, and this is the other guy,
Landon. That's me.
Well, before we get started here, the RTK After Show is a show where you can expect us to go deeper into the themes and everything that happened in the previous episode, some of our favorite moments, and how they can connect to you in your lives, and also sometimes spoilers, and in this case, definitely spoilers. Please, if you have not listened to the episode, do that now.
Go listen to all 4 of them, actually, and then come back.
Again, listen to them all 3 times, probably.
Yes.
Get our stats up. And, well, did we see Larson coming?
I mean, I wrote it, and
so yes,
so I did.
But did they?
But it was probably hard. Oh yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment if you saw Larson coming. I'd be curious to know. I think there's really only one major clue that we give, and that's in episode 2 when Yannick and Larson are interviewing Jehu. If you remember, Jehu is the nervous man from the very first scene of the whole entire thing. And Jehu's kind of stumbling over his words, and he calls Larson elder, sir, and Jehu often calls people the wrong title, so it's easy to miss.
Totally.
It was also a very intentional misspeak that we threw in there.
Yeah,
so
we definitely slid that one in there with intention. So we wonder if you caught it, or if you go back and listen again, you might be able to be like, how did I miss that? You also became a songwriter officially.
I did. I'll be touring. It's just the He's Auric song. That's all we've got. We're one-hit wonders. But
it felt right.
Yes,
felt right.
Tickets will be on sale. No, just kidding. I think it was interesting to explore. Man, what would it be like for Auric to get everything he wants and have people singing songs about his victories in battle? Like nothing can go better for him. And then, but something still isn't sitting quite right with him, and that's kind of what this episode explores.
Totally.
So.
We get to go back in time through definitely not time travel.
No, not time travel.
Some other things. And also, just to continue that through line that we've been talking about this whole time in all these episodes about the relationship between Yannick and Auric just looking up to him and wanting to be just like him. But then, of course, he finds out, wait, maybe he's not as perfect as he thought he. I'm just definitely quoting the intro at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm interested, as we continue with it, Where does how you personally connected with their relationship, how does that play into what we see happen in episode 4?
Yeah, well, first an observation. I think it's interesting. Auric gets to learn about Yannick and his childhood and his relationship with his adopted father, the king, who's a fun new character that we got to meet this episode.
Definitely. And
it's interesting to see how Yannick and Auric aren't too different, and the way that Yannick is still trying to work his way back. He wants to pay his dad back for all the wrong he's done. And then, he takes that baggage and he carries that with him as a parent, and that kind of just spills down onto Auric. And so I think it's interesting how sometimes things can repeat themselves, and the Bible will talk about like generational sin kind of thing. And so I think that's very interesting. And I think the way that in this case it kind of starts to get righted is through vulnerability. And Auric, we talked about in the last episode, Auric feeling the weight of, man, I want to make my dad proud, and so I'll even go so far as to disobey him to get it, when really all he wants to hear is, man, Auric, I love you. And that's what Yannick finally tells Auric through kind of this vulnerable moment. And I definitely, in my life, in my relationship with my family, we've had conversations about how some of the hard things that my parents had to deal with growing up and how that's impacted them and how that impacts me. And those have really been the first step on the way towards understanding each other, having grace for each other, and like healing in some hard things. So vulnerability is big.
Yeah, totally. And I speaking from someone who has been terrified of vulnerability my entire life, but I can think of, talking about my relationship with my parents. I've shared a little bit in this show about how I wanted to be just like my dad, just like Auric, wanted to be like his dad. I remember coming to this place in high school where I just felt like I didn't measure up. I wanted to be so much like my dad, but inside I just felt like I was messed up. And so I had this divide where I felt like I had to put on the face and I had to look like the perfect kid. But inside I kept myself from my parents because I just didn't want them to know that I wasn't perfect. I wasn't as good as I wanted to look like. For them, and that creates that shame that really makes it hard to be yourself, to be open, and to just have that relationship, it helped me a lot to come to terms with the fact that my parents weren't perfect either. We're all sinful people, and because of that, I don't need to feel like I need to measure up to some perfection for my parents. And it's so beautiful in the end of this episode where Yannick is at his lowest and Auric takes the first step towards Yannick and starts speaking about, like you said, I just wanted to be with you. And it's so beautiful. And it reminds me of 2 Corinthians 12, the verse about, my power is made perfect in weakness. And so because of that, we'll boast about the weaknesses we have. We'll just be wide open about, like, I'm weak, I messed up, but because of God, like his power working in me, I can have no shame. And it's just it's a beautiful thing. And so before we can kind of take that step in growth like Auric does here with his relationship with Yannick, and they culminate with this beautiful, we call it the hug without, the mouth hug is what we called it in production, where you have to make a noise to show that you're hugging. But this beautiful hug in just to show like they're humbling themselves, acknowledging their own weaknesses, giving themselves grace. And, once you're vulnerable with God, you can ask him to give you the strength to be vulnerable with others. And I just think it's such a powerful thing.
And that's the key, because, as we talk about weakness, admitting weakness can be scary. In that moment that Auric said, Yannick, or Dad, I just want to be with you, Yannick could have said a number of things that would have only hurt Auric more. And it's a good reminder that Yannick represents, kind of a godly response of, I love you, son. And so, parents, take this opportunity to bring your kids in vulnerably. I maybe challenge you to do that. I think I am so grateful for a conversation I had with my parents where they invited me in to some of the pain that they had, and that did wonders for our relationship. And so consider, bringing your kids into that. That can be a really helpful conversation. We have more discussion questions kind of surrounding that topic and others down below. It's always in the description.
Yes. We got one more of these things.
Yeah,
one more, last episode. What's going to happen? Who knows? We do. We wrote it. All right. We'll see you next time.